thanks for coming in.
It's great to be here. This is wonderful. The CBC. This is a Canadian institution.
I've never met you before, George. It's nice to meet you.
I know. I am I'm the yin to Dallas's yang of Alexisonfire, and the thing that I provide to the band isn't traditionally something that you hear on the CBC.
Which is what?
Which is shrieking at the top of my lungs and bending mic stands and just general chaotic nature.
You haven't heard the new Quirks and Quarks yet. That's it. That's
the Vinyl Cafe.
Oh, that's what it is now. Stuart went crazy by the end of it. It got a little out there. And I wanted to start out by talking about something, Dallas, you and I already talked about when you were last here, but I think it's good to catch people up, which is the album title, which is the Otherness. Because I remember you said something interesting about that I thought we should get out, because I think it frames the rest of the conversation. So talk to me a little bit about where the title comes from.
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea to call the whole batch of songs Otherness was George, because I had this idea kicking around for a while, just of trying to get that word into a song and it to be positive and it to be sort of like celebrating the idea of feeling a little bit left of center. So when I kind of figured out how to put it into this song, I sent the sort of bones of it to the boys, and then that also sparked George, and I believe you and Steele kind of put the pre-choruses together, the lyrics, right? Yeah. You kind of worked together on that. And then when we had this song, George just kind of said one day, should we call the record Otherness? Because my idea behind the song was trying to write a celebration of us and how a bunch of weird kids started a weird band and somehow still have it in our lives to be this beautiful thing that we can lean on, whether it's in good times or bad times. And believe me, we've had a lot of both of those, So then when George said, should we call the record Otherness, it was immediate.
Well, why did that come to you?
Well, I mean, like it was something about it worked for me. Like, I mean, I understand we're all just strange. We're strange individuals, and we always have been, and we've always been drawn to strange and outside culture and art. Like things that you aren't presented readily on, through major media. Those were always things that we were seeking out, and we always felt like that band. And through all, we defied a lot of, common sense by becoming as big as we did. Like there's no reason for this to happen, and it just feels like we're still very much different from, the status quo. So it made sense to me to call the album that. I mean, Otherness it represents us. We also thought about it in that it could be interpreted in many different ways. And that's a lot of Alexisonfire songs. There's a lot of, borderline esoteric lyrics that people interpret in different sort of ways. And I feel like Otherness relates to a lot of people that I see out in our audience, and that can be, as, something like skateboarders and punks, but it can also be LGBTQ or people with, who don't look like, straight white freedom convoy people, like we are.
We've always appreciated that we're able to be a place for those people too, to come and feel comfortable and safe at our shows, and George always says something on stage before we play certain songs to remind everybody in the audience that this is a safe place.
Yeah.
It's a decidedly unsafe place if you have certain views. But so for us, it was just like, I think we realized that we have always been these kind of left of center people, and a lot of the people that allowed us to be in this band for this long are the same.
Did you know at the very beginning, George, that like so I think the story is that, I mean, I don't know it that well, but that Wade brings you guys together for a jam, like at the very, very beginning of the band, right? Mm-hmm. Did you know immediately, or like maybe when did you know, these are the fellows I'd like to make music with? This is something that feels very real to me.
Well, at the time, I don't think anything ever felt real at the time, we were all playing in like I was playing in 3 different bands at the time, and that's just something we did. There was a lot of kind of incestuous changing of bass players and guitar players and stuff like that, and then somebody has an idea or is moved by some sort of band, and then you form another band, like, because that was what happened back then.
That in that area we grew up in was just, it fostered this.
Yeah.
There were so many bands from Southern Ontario just playing constantly together on the weekends, or you're going an hour outside, and you know what I mean? Like, you were able to find really like-minded people and
kids with ingenuity. They had the mindset to pay $250 to rent out the Canadian Auto Workers Union Hall, and then they'd beg, borrow, steal a PA, and then they'd get all their reprobate friends to come, and they go flyer the local high schools and the local record stores, and then people would, like, you get 40 kids in a room, and some local bands would play, and that's kind of how we got our start.
By the way, that was Wade. Wade was one of those kids.
But was there any moment where you're in the basement, or you're getting ready for one of these gigs, and you go like, oh, this is probably the best version of this.
Well,
this
yeah, I think it is, like, but it wasn't like, to me that feels grandiose. Like we're like, wow, you know what? We've got the thing that it takes.
Yeah.
The thing that it takes was dooming us to obscurity. We were playing this type of music. This music wasn't on TV. It wasn't on the radio. It wasn't anywhere. The biggest bands that were playing, it was barely in the record stores. You had to kind of seek out the secret corners of the music industry to find what we were doing. So in that regard, the idea of us one day playing 2 huge shows at the Budweiser stage, like, that's Neptune. That's somewhere else. Like, that's not, we're just playing because we like doing it.
And it feels good.
So I don't feel like there was a moment at that point where I was like, oh yeah, we've got the thing that it takes to do it. I think we were just doing it because we wanted to do it. Right?
But it happened relatively quickly, right? Like, going from playing shows, like local shows, like 30, 40 people, to the radio, to, people becoming really into Alexis. Like, as far as I know the story, it happened really quickly.
Within a couple of years, it was like I think really, we played a lot around Southern Ontario in the beginning. We tried to go, we would go out to Quebec on the weekends if we could. If we could borrow George's parents' car, we would, and we'd drive there in a Volvo.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, a Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't want to. Sorry, I'm tell the story incorrectly. But then in and around that time, we made the record, and then it was when the video started getting played on Much Music, which also coincided with our first actual trek across the country. And I think that took about a month to get from here to there, as it does in this impossible country we live in. And I think by the time we got to Vancouver, we had noticed something different. It was us and Billy Talent doing our first Canadian tours together, while the videos were starting to get played more, ours and theirs. And I think by the end of that tour, we were like, okay, there's something happening. But I still don't think that we necessarily, I don't even know if that we've ever felt the thing that you are trying to get us to remember when it happened. I think that maybe the closest time would be recently when we made this album.
Yeah.
Where we finally allowed ourselves to even feel like, this is good.
Yeah. We're good. We're good at, we
honestly,
can do the thing. And there's nothing to feel like, you don't need to feel humble or weird about it.
Yeah.
We're capable. And I think that, I'd say on this record is when we had that moment.
Honestly.
But that love for your band that you're talking about across the country, it always felt, and I talked to you about this once before, Dallas, it always felt different than the love people had for other bands. People would have in Canada.
Yeah.
People would have your lyrics tattooed on them. I knew in my high school which of the guys in my high school were into your band, just by looking at them.
Yeah.
It doesn't normally happen in that big a way. And I don't know if you have an answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Any idea why? Any idea why it meant so much to people that deeply?
It's because we represent reform in music, I think, to a lot of people.
Really?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think that the reason why so many people pushed to get us on, Much Music when we were first around was because as much as they loved the music and they saw this as this different thing, they saw us as like, this is me saying that I don't want to see whatever mainstream pop thing was happening at the time or whatever. Like, and I think that really galvanizes people and it gets them excited about it and it feels like it's their own. It's in the same way, like, and like someone's gonna lambaste me online about this, but I feel like Rush has a similar sort of thing going on. They are a bizarre band, but for all intents and purposes, very strange. But their fans are just like ravenous, and like they don't have radio hits. They have like, you know, like these long, sprawling, weird songs about like, you know, a rock future and all this stuff, right? Like, but the people that love them are just, they have. You can smell it on them. They love Rush, you know? And I feel like there's something like that going on with Alexis. And yeah, I think it has to do with that. I think it has to do with that notion of otherness, honestly.
How was the van? Like, how was the van for that long?
Oh,
like,
God, it was...
You guys were a lot, 20.
It was a wonderful place, but it was also, it was like terrifying.
A thresher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just,
I mean... You take a bunch of personalities, right? Because this is the thing, like
teenagers.
You start a band because of one thing. You all met and you kind of like music, right?
Yeah.
And especially like we were talking about, like when we were in the room playing this stuff, you're like, you don't think it's going to then become your life. You maybe part of you wants it. I mean, I know I wanted to at least get in the van and see what it was like. Mm-hmm. I think we all shared that common interest. But aside from that, then it's strangers getting to know each other as kids, driving across the country and putting yourself through incredible mental and physical and emotional stimulation, and also just
basically subjecting yourself to abject poverty as well. Like there's a lot of like sleeping on kitchen floors and like eating like, you know, mayonnaise sandwiches and like, you know, just like weird, like.
What you have to understand too, and we've said this many times, but like even though our band was on TV and we were playing to a lot of people, we were not making any money. So we were touring down in America, sleeping in our van, or, you know, rationing $5 a day. So, because it wasn't like coinciding. We were a typical story in the music business. We signed a bad record contract.
Yeah.
And looked like we were really popular, and we were all living in our parents' houses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was, like George said, it's a lot of that, and it's a lot of perseverance of like, and a lot of how you deal with that, or a lot of how we dealt with that, is we just tried to joke one another into either bliss or nightmares.
Drive each other, you know, completely insane.
Did you love each other in that moment?
I think so. I mean, I think
so. Yeah.
If I've learned anything, is that this band is fueled by the love for one another.
Yeah.
Because we keep coming back to this, and it's not the songs. The songs are there. They're a product of whatever it is that we seem to be able to pull off with one another when we get into a room, and it's been this way ever since. Like, I read this thing where Wade did an interview and he said band practice hasn't changed, and it never has. Mm-mm. It has been this the whole time.
But even when it's the 3 hour, back then 3 hours at the American border in the van, waiting to get across, you haven't eaten, like as you say, you're chirping one another, you give each other a hard time. There was still some love there.
We suffer so well together.
Yes.
Like honestly, like that was part of, you spend that time close quarters in this very personal space in this, you know, 15-person passenger van, and you develop your own language and your own kind of understanding with one another. You learn to live with one another, and that is, whatever cocktail we are now was started in that shaker, right?
Yeah.
Like it was.
And you learn if you can get over stuff.
You can do whatever you want.
But you know what? It teaches you how to like get over things that upset you, or like you literally
our
either
van breaks down 3 hours outside of our first show on our first tour in America. We're in Binghamton, New York. We're like, okay, what do we got to do? We're a bunch of teenagers. We got to figure out how to do this. We get it towed back to St. Catharines. We rent a van. We back, and then we sleep in Queens, New York that night. There's some guy with tattoos banging on we're sleeping in a van in Queens, New York as teenagers. You know, like that sort of stuff. Like
knocks on the door with a gun.
Yeah, knocks on the door with a gun. Yeah,
and we realized that he finally gets me to roll the window down, and he was a police officer, and we were parked out front of his mom's house, and she'd called on this suspicious van, and it was just us. We were sleeping there because we had to drive all night, and we didn't know where to stay. We couldn't, you know what I mean?
But that's it. Like, it's just like a constant, like figuring things out. Something breaks on the van. Okay, we got to get that fixed, or we're gonna miss the thing. Okay, well, even like just the logistics of playing shows. Like you show up to the venue, you load in, you do that, and then okay, well, we got to get to the next city, and if we don't leave, and get at least within 4 hours of that city tonight, we're going to be late for the show the next day because we're a bunch of reprobate teenagers. Like it's just like this constant. It's an adventure. It's an adventure that we all live through, and it is the reason why we're all still family today.
Yeah, but it starts paying off. I mean, the band starts to get bigger and bigger.
Yes,
and bigger,
eventually
and,
it starts to. But
yeah,
thankfully, in that what we wanted out of it was we wanted to go somewhere else. And we wanted to play anywhere we could.
Yeah,
and so like when we started to kind of like build some popularity and build some sort of like, well, thankfully in the Canadian music grant system at the time, we were able to, we used whatever finances we started to accrue. Let's go to Japan. Let's go to Australia. Let's go to UK. It sounds like, we're getting feedback that people are listening to us there. Let's go see how far we can take it. But always at like a real small attainable goal kind of thing.
Oh yeah. And there was a lot of uphill battles, and as much as Canada took off for us, like, it was just, there were a lot of building in other places that we had to figure out. And like that same tour that Dallas talked about, where we played in Vancouver with Billy Talent to 1,500 people at the Croatian Cultural Center. We went the next day to Olympia, Washington, and played to nobody.
Yeah.
Like that's, so we had this crazy, thing going on where Canada was a big deal, but we were still like slugging it out and working to try and make it, worthwhile to tour other places as well, And we eventually did. We got to a place where we could now tour in the UK and Australia and South America and these places, and it's just like it took work and figuring out.
But then you broke up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey.
No, I'm joking.
That we broke up, and I don't know, it's also a slog,
Yeah.
It takes its toll. And even when it's going well, it's a lot. And it took its time.
Was that it? Like, was that, I'm just asking with a bit, I'm not asking you to do anything you don't want to do here, guys.
No.
Like, you can ask us. Let's get personal, man.
What happened?
Well, I mean, I left the band, which really started it all, but I think, I have my own reasons for that. I've gone into it before, but it was just, the other things started happening, and I was doing that, but twice,
Yeah.
And for about, 7 or 8 years, I didn't stop, and it took a toll on me in many ways. And I felt like I needed to leave and go do other things. And you know what I mean? And that's like, I think, when I did, it was tough. It was tough for me. It was tough for the guys. But I think that they all appreciate what I was thinking when now that time has.
I think you had the, like you obviously had the courage to do it. I think we all needed to not be in Alexisonfire for a while. And that was, as much as uncomfortable as it was, we were all raised by the road and touring and van stuff. We were plucked essentially right out of high school and straight into a touring band. And we were all very much institutionalized by that. And I think we needed to step away from it for a while and kind of figure out that we'd be okay without it. And yeah, in that couple, the 3 or 4 years where we weren't Alexisonfire anymore, we all kind of became these other people. And
how about you? What'd you do?
I went back to school, and I started volunteering. And after about 3 years of schooling and amassing certificates, I became a firefighter for the city of Oshawa. And I've been doing that ever since. I'm 7 years now with the city of Oshawa. In fact, I was there last night. I was at a fire at 3:30 in the morning last night, and now I'm here in Studio Q, which I cannot explain to you what that feels like. It is crazy as hell.
Is it good? Is it good to have a thing that's very much not entertainment?
It's great. I'm getting my cake. I'm getting my cake, and I'm eating it too. I can live this like beautiful, wonderful life with my family, and I have this career that is so I don't know, really challenging and wonderful. And I've worked with it's together. It's very similar to being in a band. You live close quarters with people. There's a lot of hurry up and wait to it. You go. There's exciting moments. There's stressful moments, and you have to carry out tasks in intense situations. I don't know. I think it's very similar. And there's a lot of chirping and finding places to eat.
Do you ever worry about him? Do you ever worry about George?
All the time. I mean, like, that's also my nature. I'm a worrier by nature, but I'm constantly impressed that George is who he is, because I don't think anybody understands, like, the two things that he does and how he's able to do them. Yeah. Like when you were talking about Newfoundland earlier, like, he'd worked the night before and flew in, and that was the day of the show. You know what I mean? And what he's talking to you, like, just now, he was at a fire at 3:30 in the morning last night. And I also know how hard it was for him to get placed, and how hard he worked to keep amassing certificates and keep at it. Until,
the recruit process is really difficult, and it was long, and you there's times when you think you're not going to get there, and eventually it paid off. But it's like, it's a slog. But yeah, and now I get to come back after. So, like, the band breaks up. Yeah, I go to fire school, spend my years trying to get the job. I get the job, and as I get the job, everyone's like, hey, let's play some shows. And I was like, oh my God, okay, all right, fine. And then it's like, okay, now I got to work around my schedule and figure out how I can play shows again. And it's been fun.
So the pandemic kind of happens, and then you get back to, like, and then there's like a bit of a hang, right? Because I know you guys are doing shows. Yeah. There were always songs. I watched an interview with you guys the other day where I think the first question was like, so you guys are back together? And it was kind of like, well, we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of that going on.
Absolutely. I think we were hesitant because of when we broke up, we felt like we did it the right way. So then when we started playing again, we were all, tiptoeing into it, just making sure that we felt good, that it felt good. I don't think any of us were interested in just doing it to do it. Yeah. We needed it to feel the same way and feel like we were contributing something, at least, like, to the people who wanted us to play for them. So it was that for a while. Plus, we were all living these other lives as well. And it was like,
But this time, the pandemic happens, and you just kind of get together to hang out, like you used to do.
We get together to, like Wade says, like, let's jam. Which just means also, like, let's just hang out and chirp each other and order pizza and catch each other up on the ridiculous things that we say to one another, and we'll maybe play some music.
And it wasn't right at the beginning of the pandemic.
No,
too. It was like almost a year into the pandemic where we're sitting there and we're just like, wow, like, it's been a real problem getting us all in the same room, and getting us all to Southern Ontario even, like, that's been really hard. And it's been a whole year. We've just been, like, right there. Maybe we should, and then it happened. And
6 months later, we were done.
Got the record.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What was the line, Dallas? You said it was not so much deliberate as it was coincidental.
Yeah, it was. Like, there was not, like, when Wade said let's jam or let's hang out, there was not like, okay, we've got the time, let's go make an album. It was just like, hey, we're all here, let's go play and see if we can write some tunes.
But isn't there a lesson in that? Isn't the lesson?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
But
taking it outside of making a record outside of the tour cycle of, like, okay, well, I toured for 8 months and now I'm going to take 2 months, and one of those months will be for writing, the other will be in the studio, and then once that's done, we'll go back on the road, and, like, taking it out of that world of, like, career musician, and then it was like we were making our first record again. We just get in the room. What do you want to make? Let's see what we got. Oh, what do you got? We got riffs. Let's make them. We're not thinking about, okay, how do we fit this into the grand scheme of Alexisonfire? It's just like, let's write some songs and figure it out.
Strictly for the sake of being creative with one another.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's an easy narrative here, which is like, okay, so you get back together in a way that, it's very holistic. It feels like the very first time. So the reason I have the headphones here is I want to actually play you a song off the record that I think talks to something that feels a little bit more complex and actually a little bit more kind of gratifying about you guys getting back together. Just take a listen to this. This is something from the record. It's nothing.
This is fun.
I'm not Nardwuar right now, so whatever you guys want.
Oh yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it.
It's good.
We can play the whole record for it if you want. If you haven't heard it
Well,
yet.
we were joking with Christina earlier, our publicist, being like, "Can you send us a link to the album, please?"
All right, take it off. So, am I right that the drummer of your band, that's his song?
No,
Is
it's
that right?
Steele, our bass player.
Your bass player's song.
Yeah.
So, and this is not someone who would typically come to the band with a lot of songs, right?
Well, he came with the lyrics mostly. I think that we had ideas for like this, the song and the how it's going to play out, kind of like usually riffs that starts with you and Wade and stuff like that. But traditionally, it's either you or myself or Wade that write lyrics. Steele came with like a cachet of lyrics for, and Dal found like a chunk of those lyrics. They were just kind of written freeform kind of poetry. They didn't really fit into a song per se.
Yeah.
And then you found a kind of chunk that worked for the chorus of Blue Spade.
Yeah, and that I think I even just I know Steele had been writing a lot.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for songs, but just like he'd been writing for many years actually. So when I kind of wrote I knew what the melody was going to be, I just asked him, send me some lyrics and I'll see if I can, I didn't want to think about I just send me some words and I'll see if I can, even just get an idea to say something. And I think when I sent him back the chorus of his words, it really sparked this thing in him that he could write, or at least contribute something to us to see if we liked it. And then he ended up the song becomes this sort of springboard for Steele to find a new way to express what he's feeling. And
like personally.
Like very personally. Like, we don't have to get into too specific of it because it's not ours to tell.
Of
but
course.
Steele's battled a lot of demons for a long time, since we've known him.
Yeah.
And it's been a very, very tough road for the guy. Speaking of constantly amazing you, I mean, he's the most amazing person I've ever met.
He's a very remarkable human being. So like, but yeah, so that's it. Like he comes with these lyrics and we're like, okay, this is incredible. He has a voice and it's something that he's willing to talk about, that he's been very private about for a long time. And yeah, no, that it made perfect sense to happen.
The point I wanted to make was that it feels like it's the band now. It's not a bunch of individual members. It's not a bunch of individual people who used to be in the band getting back together.
Yeah.
When someone like him is contributing music in this way that maybe he hasn't, at least in a while, or never before, but at least in a while, that tells me that this reunion feels different to me.
This was that song too. I think is just such a monumental moment, and in many ways, that I feel exactly what you're saying when I listen to it. George singing in the verses, that was, that's something he had never done.
I haven't heard you sing.
That was it.
Well, now you
have.
Well, thanks for coming.
That's just it. Like that was a big moment in the studio for us. For me personally, there are demos of the song where I'm screaming all those lyrics.
Yeah.
And we got in the studio and I was like, I don't know if this feels right. I don't know. And then it was just me and Jill, who was our engineer, and I was sitting there, I was just like, just loop the verse for me, let me try. And then I was like singing it, and I sang it probably about 15 times, and like, I have no idea if it's good or not, I don't know what's in it. And then Wade walks into the room and hears it, and he's like, that's exactly what it is. And then Dallas comes in the room, he's like, yes, keep it going. Yeah. And then we're all pumped up, and then it's done, and we're listening to it, and we're hearing it, and we all walk outside, and I'm just like, I know that I am the weird ingredient in the band, and I have been for a long time.
You're the screamy dude.
I'm the screamy dude, and Alexisonfire, Steel is also a weird ingredient. But it is like, we would write these nice songs, and then you'd have to find ways to shoehorn that ingredient in, right? So now it's like, oh my God, now it doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want now because I have this tool that I can use. We're not going to have to worry about shoehorning this into anything. It's something I can use in any song. And
it's like allows a new version of you to express yourself with. It's like it was a great moment where it's like sonically it was this beautiful thing for us to now utilize. But then also it like emotionally it kind of allowed this thing, this like step forward in the band. And then the fact that, I remember when I went after George sang the verse, I was like, okay, well, now I've got to put acoustic guitar in the song because it sounds like it could use it, like this. it's entering this new sort of territory where it's heavy but it's soft.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the live room by myself with the acoustic guitar, headphones on, listening to George sing words that Steele wrote, and I'm playing acoustic guitar over it. Well, Matt Kelly's playing pedal steel on it, and I'm just like, who are we? What is this? Like, I started crying. I remember, like, it was such a beautiful thing.
Well, you're a band. You're a band.
Exactly. We always have been.
And I want to be conscious of your time here. So I got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
When you, at the very beginning of the interview, George, I asked you about the Otherness, and that was somewhat intentional on my part, because I said, tell me about Otherness, and you were like, there wasn't anything that sounded like us on the radio. There was no chance for us to become successful. Bands that sounded like us were marginal at best, and generally in the United States. And now you are one of the biggest touring bands in Canadian history. You guys are doing how many nights in St. Catharines? Like
2.
Wow. Alexis is, 2. Dal's doing 2, and then
we're doing 2.
How many people are going to be at that thing?
Hopefully a lot.
Yeah,
hopefully people come to St. Catharines.
And kind of like all over the world. I saw the Chile. Was it in Chile I saw you guys? Yeah.
Lollapalooza.
When you are now at this level, are you still other?
Every waking moment of my life, when I'm vacuuming the stairs in my house, I'm other. When I'm mowing my lawn, I'm other. When I'm, taking my kid to school, I'm other. Every single, even in the most absolutely normal, mundane, parts of our lives, there's inside of me is something that is something strange and something different, and that is in all of us. And it's what drew us together. It's what draws people to our concerts. It's what draws people to independent record stores or to late night television or whatever. Like, that's, we're different.
We're still an independent band who doesn't really get played on the radio as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I know we're on the radio right now, and it's a bit ironic, but
it's
the same.
Hey, it's the same. I'm just saying. I mean, the radio never played us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's something beautiful about that.
I absolutely do, and I think that, like, George's example of Rush, and I think we're able to say this. I don't think you're. I mean, yes, there were people who lambasted us for saying it,
but we're the new Rush.
Rush, not that. But I remember when Rush got inducted into the Canadian Songwriter Hall of Fame, and they asked 3 people to perform at it, and we were one of them.
Wow.
And the other one was Les Claypool doing a Rush cover, like by himself, and then there was like a flamenco guitarist doing a Rush cover, and then us. And I remember feeling really strange about why they included us, but we're from St. Catharines, Neil Peart's from St. Catharines, and I think that they asked us because we're weird, and they were like, look, these weird kids are weird.
There's
and
some weird kids that are defying the odds.
And they're weird, and they found other weirdos and created a community of other weirdos.
That's the way I look at it. And again, like, I feel like we've found a place in ourselves to embrace it for the first time, really, like outwardly embrace it, but also really, truly allow ourselves to feel a little bit of pride that we did this and created a space for some people to come and go nuts. And
yeah, I feel like you defied some odds.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, that's the joy. That's the joy of it, is that the otherness individually, as you're mowing the lawn, and God knows we all feel that sometimes, but that you found a place for, 20,000 people in the same room to feel other together is, it's hard to beat that. Mm-hmm. Last question. What keeps you coming back to the band?
The chirps, probably the jokes.
But I see more love than chirping here today.
No, but that is love. That is love language with us. Like, there's a lot of.
I get that.
You get around each other, and there's going to be a point in the day where you're going to laugh to a point where you have to stop.
Yes.
Where you have to stop. Okay, we can't talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
There is a camaraderie between us that is very schmoopy and whatever.
Yeah.
But
when you get a joke to land. It sometimes feels better than a good show. Because you know what it's like when you drop a joke and nobody laughs in the van, and you think, no, okay, I got to work on it. Remember when we started jamming and none of Wade's jokes were landing. And he was like, what's going on?
What's wrong? He was having a real hard
like,
time.
It's okay. Like, it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Now he's been really funny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's very good.
Right?
The group texts and all that stuff. There's a lot of...
He's been very funny.
So I think that's what keeps bringing us back.
Yeah. Want to make your friends laugh.
Also, the record's really good.
It's good too. Yeah.
we did a good thing.
I was kind of waiting for that to come out of it. You know,
Yeah,
like Wade's jokes.
we're
kind
proud of it.
He got funnier.
We
It's
didn't
also a
know
great
the record was going to happen. We knew that the jokes were going to
Exactly.
happen. So that was it.
But it's a really amazing story, and thanks for telling it.
Oh, thanks for asking about it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
It's a joy to have you.